Hi, YouTube. I hope you're fine. I had a little bit of a setback from a narcissist, but it's all like daily with the trolls. The same difference. That's the personality. So I prefer, I'll call it troll. I didn't used to, but a narcissist is a narcissist. Is a narcissist. So, anyway, I started writing things down because of the interruption. So, um, I thought we'd kind of cover the difference between a crime and a sin. Um, Consider that like for a second here. In your mind, what's the difference between a crime, inhumanity, and a sin between you and our Father? So, well, a sin is forgiven. Um, there's no sin you can do that the Father won't forgive. Doesn't mean He has to. Jesus died for our sins, but He doesn't have to forgive them. So that's where humility comes in, and shame, and repentance, and remorse is a big, big, big word. Well, in speaking of crimes, crimes are punished. So there's punishment for crimes. There's not punishment for sins. So there is a difference. Um, a sin is unintentional. You never intended to do that. That's how the darkness works. It's not something of the human makeup, it's something that the filth on this planet created to make you fail. A crime, however, on the other hand, is intention. It was intended. So the level of that for uh, the continuance of it, if you keep doing that crime, if it's a crime against humanity, then that's punishable. So there's the difference between a sin and a crime. Just had that on my mind today. So thought I'd bring it to everybody's attention, and crime's a big deal. There's crimes against God. Um, those are, um, you might want to look them up. Look them up. Look up, Google crimes against God within society, within mankind. I think you'd be surprised. If somebody's curious, I might do that sometime, but I'll just leave it at that tonight, and just saying hi. And um, yeah, if you continue doing a crime against mankind and God, and it's a continual thing, it's intentional, the punishment accumulates. Once you're saved by God, you have remorse and true repentance for a sin, you're covered. As long as you don't go into the intentional crime category again, that would be criminal. Those are crimes against mankind, would be repeated sins with intention. So, did I say I hope everybody is well? Excuse me one moment. Uh, I today I blocked some people, and I had like two different times now, at least like three people a day. It said that subscribed to me, but and they weren't reflected at all today. Like maybe it's late in the mail. I have no idea. But the other day, when Ashan subscribed, his was there, but it showed that a couple or three other people had, which I found kind of little weird. Has anybody else experienced that you know of? Just kind of a curious thing. You know, how'd they do that? Yeah, they can do about anything they want, can't they? At this point, that's a crime, huh? So, yeah. I'm gonna have one of my favorites for supper. I'm gonna have some spinach dip and probably some pretzels and Szechuan chicken. So, you know, maybe a few olives. So, but I took an allergy pill. I can't eat. Not supposed to eat spinach. That's the weirdest thing. And asparagus. I started out baby asparagus in my house one winter. It's like 7 years ago now, and kept them inside for 2 years. They were Martha Washington, the big fat ones. They're really literally that big around. And then so I put them outside. So they were 2 years old. And the next year, I had some great big ones. And then I had a Mayo Clinic skincare test and found out I was allergic to asparagus. So, and tomatoes and cabbage and a lot of things I love. It's like, that's a bummer, a big bummer. But being that the dip doesn't have a whole lot in it, and if I have a little bit of it, then I'll be okay. So, but I do love the stuff. I used to make it homemade, and yeah, but not tonight. It's just store bought. So, yeah. I thought I'd put on some classical music so the dark vibes couldn't just invade. So that's necessary sometimes. This organ reminds me my grandfather lived next door. My adopted grandpa was a pretty good guy. And he had a pump organ, a real old organ that you pump to make the air go through it, and it had valves like the big ones in the church with the tubular bells. But he had it all redone so I could come over and play it. And it was amazing, just amazing. Um, I'm not the greatest pianist in the world, but I had a little organ in my room when I was a kid and played every piano I could get my hands on. And even my relatives had like baby grands in there right off the side of their dining room, by their living room. So, and my one aunt, she had the baby grand upstairs and a player piano downstairs, which was just great because my cousins would put on and we'd sing like things like Sweet Caroline, and they had all these rolls of different player piano music, and they'd get all the like up to date stuff. Back then was like Three Dog Night and the Doobie Brothers. That freaked me out. My aunt had music from the old Black Water. I couldn't believe it. It's like, okay, that's pretty hip. I don't even think she knew what a doobie was, really, really. Not until later, and when my boy cousin grew up and got into some really bad stuff. So he's, as a matter of fact, being that he's from Illuminated Money, moved over into Wisconsin and is hiding. He's wanted by the law, and they won't go get him. So, same thing with my ex did. Went across state lines. Yeah, he's hiding, was hiding. Literally, I had the paperwork when I went into court to show the courts that um, not only had he abandoned his kids, because he said he was going to be back in 2 weeks when I kicked him out to say hi to the boys and bring them some milk. And I was still working, still doing my thing. He didn't show up for a very long time. But when we did go through the custody thing, I had a paperwork where he had filed for fraudulently disability, and I had this paper that they were after him for that, and they ignored that in the courts because his new wife had good money, that illuminated kind of money. So I totally got screwed over. No, my children did. So yeah, that was bad. But anyway, that's what happens when you stick up for God. If you say, I love Jesus Christ, you're it. You know, they'll come after you, no doubt. You know, the louder you scream you love God, the more they're gonna attack you. So So anyway, that's okay. I can deal with it. I'm forever. This is only a little blip in time. So So, what do y'all think about sins and crimes? Do you think that accumulations of sins that are unrepentive could make a crime? I'm thinking, yeah. If I keep doing the same thing, God tells my heart no, that's a crime. It accumulates. If anybody's struggling, God bless you. I mean, I wish you the best. With all my heart. If you go to write something mean at me, well, God bless you. Don't be wicked. It doesn't get you anywhere. I'll be a bastard right back at you. You know, I love people on their level. So, you know, that's a fact. If your words are even a little bit iffy to me, I will be snipey with you. So, it will cut worse. So, I was going to say, thought considered saying, I don't want to be like that, but that wouldn't be true. I do want to be like that. Everybody out there is like, oh no, no problem. No, it is a problem. If you cause me a problem, I'm causing you a problem, and it'll be worse. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. That's the eye for an eye retribution thing there. Yep. And it's time for that in this world. I have guidance by God. If I say or do something wrong, my own misjudgment, that's between me and God, and I fix it. I will come on here and tell you, you know what? On second thought, reconsiderance, or God told me, which I actually have done a couple times with my swear word. God told me, tone that crap down, you know. So, okay, I will. But if it's brought out in me, I'm not holding back, and that's all I'm saying, So, if you see me um, radical in any video, well, that's on somebody else. I don't accept Satan's bullshit in any form. Somebody puts that on me, it's right back at you. So hopefully, we will quit doing that to people, right? You know? That's what needed to happen a long time ago. The first bully that stood up and said, I'm just going to do this, it needed to be taken out right then and there in front of the whole world. Like, slap. That's that. We don't act like this, you know? So if you're bullying with your actions or your words, and the worst bullies I come up against are people that drink. And I used to drink and I bartended, but I didn't drink when I bartended. And as far as smoking or drinking or anything, you have to give it a hiatus. You have to give it a break. You know, it's like God would call it a sabbatical. Give it a rest. Clean yourself up, you know. Like I went like 8 years one time, 10 years another. Had jobs to reflect that I had to be clean, like a dealer or places I've worked where you have to be clean to get the job, state jobs, these type of things. So um, I'm telling you that if you continue on a daily basis to mistreat yourself, your body does pay for it. Your mind pays for it. So take it or leave it. You do have to give it a break. I know people, and I'm speaking to the people that have done this for decades, like life's one big party. You got to turn it off. Sometimes we got to walk away from people that we care about because they don't want to grow up. They don't want to clean their life up. They don't want to be responsible adults. So those are the type of people I distance myself from. So I figure, like, after you're like, when you're a half a century old and you truly aren't trying to get your shit together, you're a half a century old, 10 decades old, like even 30 decades old. Think of it, 20 even. You know, some people are responsible and respectable, truly. But if you're going on a half a century old or more or something, and you're still a lunatic, you might want to examine what you're doing to yourself, you know, or your idiosyncrasies, you know, or what you were taught that was acceptable in your life through your family, you know, all these type of things, right down to what do I eat, what am I putting in myself, or drink, you know, that type of stuff. Or a big mistake, doing everything all at once, drinking, drugs, smoking, everything. Yeah, ouch. Yeah. What if every time you took and made hash browns out of your body, that came right off the energy of Christ, and he wants his energy back? Yeah, that's the way it is. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice. I'm helping him. You know, that's my yeah, that's my nickname, Christ Helper. That's why I don't care about working in a church or nothing like that. Never did. I just always been like that with people, you know, always. And I say it straight out, no matter who's there. The braver I've been, the more brave I become. So, yeah, I am. Scary brave. When people have tried to scare me and they end up scared, that's kind of something. God put something in me for a reason. So, I know. Yeah, there are few people that I'd like to sit down at a table with and not only have a conversation, but a meal, which is saying a lot because, in a lot of respects, I'm kind of a loner. I love being in big crowds, but I'm leery of people and I don't trust very many. But I love everybody, and I love to see everybody's face, especially if it's got a real smile on it, not one of them fakey ones, you know. So, well, I think you know what I mean. Decent people. I'm not just talking about barely acceptable or somewhat acceptable. I'm talking about people that are um, walk out of their house every day with the intention of greeting everybody they meet with good intent, looking at our fellow human beings like, I hope you're going to be okay. You know, that type of feeling. If we actually think about who we encounter every day and just one little look, what that can do for one person, you know, it's a big deal. And a lot of people don't look. They forget that they like to live all by themselves. It must be lonely. It really must. I mean, I do make friends. I'll go out and just make friends everywhere I go. Do I keep all of them? Very few. Very few people are going to like me or love me because they can't stand to be around the truth. It kills them. I've asked people this before, but have you ever had anybody beating you up while they're telling you you think you're so goddamn good? Don't you? You know? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Bam. You know, take that, bitch. You love God, I'm gonna effing kill you. Well, those weren't the words, but that was the feeling behind it several times in my life, you know. Because when I have something to say and it's right, that's what the right thing to say is. And I don't ignore it. So, yeah, I've paid for it a lot, you know. But it's all right. See, I do have a broken jaw. I have a scar on my eye. Both my ears have been broke. My cheek has been broken here. My cheek has been broken there and there. And many other scars all over me. My mouth. I had my teeth punched through, well, slapped through by my ma. You know, little things when I was a kid that when you're raised by adopted by Masons, you really are not cared for, only used. So they had a hard time using me. They could abuse me, but they couldn't use me. Kind of like you trolls. You can only abuse me, you can't use me. I end up getting your luge, I end up getting your energy. I mastered that. I take it back. You don't get it. I make you work harder. I piss you off worse than you piss me off. I guarantee you that. That's fun for me. Bring it on. If you want to be cruel, have at it. Helps me get out my aggressions daily. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're lovely. Oh, and for you real lovely ones, I mean it. Hug, hug. Yeah. You jerks. How can you be so creepy and look in the mirror and like yourself? I'm a creep. Watch my fingers. God, I hate this bitch. Let me say something smart assy. That'll get her. Little bees and all that. That'll piss her off. I just wonder who it's going to be the next day. It's like, next, step up, take your reward for your treatment that you need. Letty, I was thinking, um, water on the brain might not be the term for people with big heads, like Dad, physically wearing big hats. It's just purely, really infection, you know, so, from filthy habits. They're infected people, literally sick. And it does have to do with the nerve endings in the brain and who's in there, you know. So, yeah, water on the brain was just a joke, but it fit. Fat heads. Fat heads and hats. Great big hats on fat heads. I had a squirrel. Their brain is the size of a walnut, and my squirrel was nicer than, well, I won't say it, doesn't matter. God, that was a smart little squirrel. It was blind, and I taught it how to forage through the winter and then let it back out in the summer, in the spring, and it took off and lived in a local tree, but it was mad at me because I put it back outside. So I got my hunting dog, actually a squirrel dog, to get along with my squirrel. And I have a picture of my Gordon setter. He was black with gold eyes and a white front. And my squirrel Fluffy was crawling on his side, and I'd go, leave him alone. And my dog would look at him and go, no, you're a good dog. I go, be a good squirrel, because he'd get at the end of the dog's tail and start messing around really crazy, like nibbling at him. But then I'd tell the dog no and take the squirrel off. But that squirrel just loved that. It was great fun. So, yeah, I had a few animals in my life, some on two legs. They were the worst ones, not using their minds for its full potential, not actually being able to contain their own spirit to rise before our Father because they're weighed down with the weight in their blood, literally, physical, biological. Without Christ's blood, we won't ascend, and if we don't feed that with good stuff, um, we're stuck. So we literally are stuck without His help. So I can't say it enough. If you can't hear God inside yourself, you might want to check out the laws that He lays before us and see what you're missing out on and correct that and try to talk to Him, because communication with Christ through Jesus Christ, that's how you talk. You ask Christ for help. Say, Jesus Christ, please help me talk to God. Help me, keep me strong with your commandments. Help me not to commit 7 deadly sins that are so easy to do that you don't really think it's like they're slid into society, like they're not important, like they're okay. We just overlook them and not worry another thing about them. Look them up, study the words, go to the base word in Aramaic of, just say, for instance, lust or greed or sloth. Take one of them, gluttony. Go to the root of gluttony, past Hebrew, pre Sumerian. Go to Aramaic, the first Egyptian language when Jesus was alive, what he spoke, and find out the true meaning of his words. If you want the truth. I mean, if you can read and it's in your heart and you've got a great understanding, but if you feel like you're really, truly not hearing our Father inside yourself, um, you need help with that, you know, because you should be able to be talking to him. The communication, the thought of, gee, I wonder how I do this, and the thought put there gently of this is how, um, versus the thought of how do I do this? Oh yeah, yeah, blah 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 blah. And then if you do blah 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 and blah 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 blah, you'll hear in your head, no, it's a feeling from the inside out. It's like I call Christ inside out eyes. He sees us from the inside out, that's for sure. Well, everybody, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you. I won't stop battling. Don't you either. Ever. Don't ever, ever let any darkness say that's okay. It's not okay. We're not okay with this crap. So, peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA. Thank you again.